My son told me I was embarrassing 3 hours before his wedding. I just smiled and said, "Okay, baby." What he didn't know was that I had 64 million reasons to smile. See, 3 months earlier, I'd won the lottery. Not just any lottery, the biggest Powerball jackpot in Illinois history, $64.2 million. I kept the ticket in my wallet right next to his wedding invitation, both pieces of paper representing completely different futures. But here's the thing about having that kind of money and not telling anyone. You get to see who people really are. You get to watch your own family show their true colors when they think you're just Brenda Lawson, the woman who worked as a hotel manager for 27 years and lives in a one-bedroom apartment on the south side of Chicago. That text message he sent me 3 hours before walking down the aisle with Vanessa. "Mom, I can't deal with this right now. Figure it out yourself. This is my day." Well, Marcus was about to learn what embarrassing really meant, and his bride, Vanessa, who'd been posting wedding countdown content to her 43,000 TikTok followers, was about to get the viral moment she'd been chasing, just not the kind she wanted. Let me back up and tell you exactly how we got here. March 18th, 2024. That's the day everything changed, though nobody knew it except me. I was working the evening shift at the Meridian Grand Hotel downtown, same job I'd held for nearly 3 decades since Marcus's father walked out when the boy was 4 years old. Assistant manager to front desk supervisor to operations manager. Steady climb, decent benefits, nothing glamorous. I made $46,000 a year, lived in my $912 a month apartment in Englewood, and drove my 2015 Nissan Altima with 147,000 miles on it. Every Tuesday for 14 years, I bought my lottery ticket at Big Jim's Corner Store on 63rd Street. Same numbers every time. 4, 11, 19, 28, 33, 47, with Powerball 22. Those were Marcus's birth date, the day I got my first real job, my mother's birthday, and the ages of the 3 kids I'd helped raise in my building when their parents were working double shifts. Numbers that meant something. Numbers that told a story. That Wednesday morning, I was having my usual coffee, black with 1 sugar, checking the Powerball results on my phone while getting ready for my shift. 4. Got it. 11. Got it. 19. My hands started shaking so hard I had to set down my coffee cup. 28. 33. 47. All there. Every single one. Then the Powerball. 22. I stared at that screen for 15 minutes straight, checked it on 4 different websites, called the lottery hotline twice, just to hear them confirm the winning numbers again. Called a 3rd time because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. $64.2 million. The largest single-ticket Powerball win in Illinois history. A black woman from Englewood holding a ticket worth more money than I could comprehend. I drove to the lottery office in Springfield that same day, took a personal day from work for the first time in 3 years. Took the lump sum. $38.7 million after federal and state taxes. By Thursday afternoon, my Bank of America checking account showed a balance that made me sit down on the floor of my apartment and just breathe for 20 minutes straight. $38,743,218.62. But I didn't tell anyone, not Marcus, not my daughter-in-law Vanessa, who I'd known for 2 years and still couldn't quite read. Not even my sister Diane, who'd been asking me for 15 years why I kept wasting money on those tickets when I could barely afford my rent. See, I wanted to do something special for Marcus's wedding. He'd been planning it with Vanessa for 18 months. She had a whole wedding Instagram account with 6,000 followers, every detail documented and hashtagged. The venue alone was costing them $32,000. I was going to surprise them with a check for $2.5 million, enough to pay for the wedding, buy a house, start their life without the crushing debt most young couples face. Maybe enough for Marcus to finally respect the mother who'd raised him alone. But first, I wanted to see something. I wanted to watch how my family treated me when they thought I was still just struggling. Brenda Lawson, the hotel manager, who picked up extra shifts to make ends meet. The woman whose son had moved to the North Shore suburbs and started forgetting where he came from. The test started small, barely noticeable. In April, I asked Marcus if I could borrow his lawn edger, because mine had finally died after 12 years. He said he was too busy with wedding planning. Asked if he wanted to meet for lunch at Harold's Chicken, the place we used to go every Sunday when he was growing up. He said he and Vanessa were trying to eat cleaner now, watching their pre-wedding diet. Nothing fancy, just our spot, our tradition. But that didn't fit their new lifestyle anymore. These weren't big things, easy to explain away. Wedding stress, busy schedules, new priorities. But they added up like compound interest, small hurts accumulating into something I couldn't ignore anymore. Then came June 22nd. The day Marcus's wedding invitation arrived in my mailbox. Heavy cardstock, gold foil lettering, the kind that probably cost $8 each to print. Mrs. Brenda Lawson in elegant calligraphy, like I was some distinguished guest instead of the woman who'd worked night shifts at the hotel so he could have new shoes for school. The wedding was set for September 28th at Lakeshore Pavilion. I looked it up online. $9,700 just for the venue rental, not including catering, flowers, or the photographer Vanessa kept posting about on social media. The whole celebration was going to cost them $47,000, according to Vanessa's wedding TikTok account, where she documented every vendor meeting, every dress fitting, every cake tasting with perfectly curated content. $47,000 for one day, and my son was stressed about every penny of it. I could hear it in his voice when he called me in July, that edge of panic he got when money was tight. "Mom, this wedding is draining us." Vanessa's parents helped with the photographer, but we're still short on the catering deposit. That's when I almost told him. Almost said, "Baby, don't worry about money. Mama's got you covered." But something held me back. Maybe it was the way he'd been talking to me lately. Always rushing off the phone, always too busy for Sunday dinner. Always making excuses why he couldn't drive the 45 minutes from his North Shore condo to visit his mother in Englewood. When's the last time he'd asked how I was doing? When's the last time he'd seemed genuinely interested in my life instead of just calling when he needed something? I decided to wait. Let him have his stress about money. After all, I'd been stressed about money for 30 years, working double shifts and taking on extra responsibilities at the hotel just to keep the lights on and food on the table. He'd never seemed particularly concerned about that when he was spending my money. But I was still planning the surprise. $2.5 million in a wedding card. Maybe $3 million. Why not? I could afford it now. The money was just sitting there in my account, earning interest I didn't even need. I had the check printed up at the bank in August, made it out to Marcus and Vanessa Lawson in the amount of $2,500,000 even. The bank manager, a young white man named Ryan who couldn't have been more than 30, actually asked me twice if I was sure about the amount. "Yes," I said calmly. "It's for my son's wedding." He looked at me like he was trying to reconcile my worn purse and simple clothes with the number on that check. I kept that check in my safe deposit box at the bank, right next to copies of my lottery ticket and account statements. Everything was ready. The surprise was planned. I could already imagine Marcus's face when he opened that card, the way his eyes would go wide, the way he might finally look at his mother with something other than polite distance. Then came September 25th. 3 days before the wedding, that's when Marcus called me with a request that would shatter everything I'd been planning. "Mom," he said, and I could hear that particular tone in his voice, the one that meant he wanted something but was trying to sound casual about it. "I need to talk to you about something." "What is it, baby?" "So, you know how important Saturday is to Vanessa and me. It's literally the biggest day of our lives, and we want everything to be perfect for the photos and video." I waited. With Marcus, there was always a preamble before the actual request. "The thing is, Mom, Vanessa's been looking at photos from her cousin's wedding last month, and she noticed that some of the family members looked kind of, well, not quite right for the aesthetic they were going for, and it really affected how the professional photos turned out." Aesthetic. That was a word I'd been hearing a lot from both of them lately. Everything had to match their aesthetic. "I'm listening," I said carefully. "Well, we were wondering if you could maybe invest in a new outfit for Saturday, something that would photograph well. Vanessa found this amazing boutique in Evanston, and they have these gorgeous dresses and suits that would be perfect for you." The stylist there said for around $1,000, they could put together something really elegant that would complement our wedding colors. $1,000. That was more than my monthly rent. "Marcus, that's a lot of money for me right now. You know I've been trying to save up to give you and Vanessa a nice wedding gift." "I know, Mom, but hear me out. This is really important to us. And honestly, the outfit you wore to Cousin Teresa's wedding last summer was, well, it was pretty dated. The photos from that day, you kind of stood out in a way that wasn't great. We just want you to look your absolute best for our special day." I looked down at what I was wearing. The same black slacks and floral blouse I wore on my days off. Clean, pressed, respectable. The kind of clothes a hotel manager who made $46,000 a year could afford. "How about this?" I said slowly. "I can probably manage $600. Maybe I could find something nice at Macy's for that price." The pause that followed felt like it lasted a full minute. "Mom, honestly, $600 isn't going to be enough. You'll just end up with something that looks cheap, and that's going to show in the photos. Look, I know money is tight for you, but this is my wedding. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Can't you just figure something out?" Figure something out. Like I was a puzzle he needed to solve instead of his mother asking for understanding. "Marcus, $600 is a lot of money for me. You know I'm living paycheck to paycheck here. I've got rent, car insurance, utilities." "Mom, come on. You've been a manager at that hotel for what, 27 years? You're telling me you can't come up with $400 more? What about a credit card? What about asking Aunt Diane? What about picking up some extra shifts?" Extra shifts. At 58 years old, on top of my already demanding schedule, so I could buy a $1,000 outfit to match their aesthetic. "Baby, I just want to look nice for your wedding. I thought maybe you and Vanessa could help me out just this once." Another pause. Then his voice changed, got harder in a way that reminded me of his father. "Mom, I can't keep bailing you out financially. Vanessa and I have our own money stress right now. This wedding is costing us $47,000. Her parents helped with some of it. Our friends have contributed to our registry. I cannot take on your expenses too. I'm not asking you to bail me out. I'm asking for help with one outfit so I can look appropriate at your wedding. And I'm telling you that I can't enable this pattern anymore. You're 58 years old. You should be able to afford your own clothes by now. The fact that you're calling me 3 days before my wedding to ask for money is honestly embarrassing." There it was, the word that cut deeper than he probably intended. Embarrassing. "Mom, yes, it is embarrassing. I'm getting married in 3 days. Vanessa and I have a million details to handle. The venue coordinator is calling us every hour. The caterer is asking about final counts. And instead of just being happy for us and supporting us, you're creating more stress by asking us to pay for your clothes." I sat there in my little apartment, looking at my reflection in the blank television screen. Same face I'd had my whole life. Same woman who'd worked doubles when he needed braces. Same woman who'd given up her dream of going back to school so he could go to private high school. Same woman who'd spent every birthday and Christmas for 34 years making sure he had everything he wanted, even when it meant I went without. You know what, Marcus? You're right. I'll figure it out myself. Thank you, Mom. I knew you'd understand. And please, just try to look nice on Saturday, okay? This day means everything to Vanessa and me. He hung up without saying he loved me, without asking if I was okay, without even a goodbye that felt like he cared. I sat there staring at my phone for a long time. Then I opened my banking app and looked at that number. $38,743,218.62. I could buy that entire boutique in Evanston. I could buy the building it was in. I could probably buy a dozen $1,000 outfits and wear a different one to every event for the next year without even noticing the money was gone. Instead, I walked to my closet and pulled out the same burgundy dress I'd worn to Cousin Teresa's wedding last summer. The one Marcus called dated. I'd bought it at Nordstrom Rack 4 years ago for $73 on clearance. It still fit perfectly. It was clean and pressed. It would have to do. But something fundamental had shifted in that phone call, something I couldn't ignore anymore. The check in my safe deposit box, the one for $2.5 million, suddenly felt like a mistake, a reward for behavior that didn't deserve rewarding. That night, sleep was impossible. I kept replaying Marcus's words. Embarrassing. Enable this pattern anymore. Figure it out yourself. 34 years of being his mother, and this is what it came down to. A $600 request, not even a gift, just help looking decent at his wedding, and I was suddenly a burden to be managed. I got up around midnight and made myself tea, sat at my small kitchen table with my laptop, and did what I always do when I need clarity. I made a list. I pulled up my bank statements from the last 8 years and went through every transaction involving Marcus, every birthday gift, every Christmas present, every emergency he'd called about. The numbers painted a clear picture. His college tuition at Northwestern, $53,000 over 4 years. I'd paid $38,000 of that myself, working overnight shifts at the hotel and selling my mother's jewelry to cover what scholarships didn't. His first car, a used Honda Civic for $9,200 when he turned 19. I'd saved for 3 years to buy that car. First and last month's rent plus security deposit when he moved into his first apartment after college. $4,100. Emergency dental work when he was between insurance policies. $2,300. His engagement ring payment when he was short on cash. $1,500 that was never mentioned again. Then the yearly gifts. Christmas and birthday averaging $500 each, twice a year for 34 years. That was $34,000 right there, not counting the dinners I'd paid for, the gas money when he was in college, the phone bill I'd covered until he was 26, the furniture I'd helped him buy when he moved in with Vanessa. Conservative estimate over the last decade alone, I'd given Marcus somewhere around $83,000. $83,000 from a woman making $46,000 a year, living in a $900 apartment, driving a car with 147,000 miles on it. But when I asked for $600 to look appropriate at his wedding, I was told I was embarrassing. I was told to figure it out myself. I opened another browser window and looked up that boutique in Evanston he'd mentioned. Their website showed cocktail dresses starting at $800 and going up to $3,000, evening gowns even more. I could afford their entire inventory and still have enough money to buy the building. But that wasn't the point. The point was respect. The point was being treated like I mattered, not just when Marcus needed something, but always. I walked to my bedroom and unlocked the small safe I kept in my closet. Inside was the lottery ticket, my account statements, and that check for $2.5 million. I pulled out the check and stared at it under my bedside lamp. Pay to the order of Marcus and Vanessa Lawson. Amount $2,500,000. Memo, for my son's new beginning. With all my love, Mom. I'd been so excited when I had this printed at the bank. Imagined the look on Marcus's face. Imagined him hugging me, maybe crying, maybe finally saying he was proud of me, proud to be my son, maybe finally treating me like I was worth something beyond what I could provide. But sitting there at 1 a.m, something became absolutely clear. If I gave him this money now, after the way he'd just spoken to me, what would I be teaching him? That he could dismiss me, insult me, call me embarrassing, and still get rewarded with millions? That there were no consequences for treating your mother like an ATM machine? My mother used to tell me, "Brenda, you teach people how to treat you by what you accept." I'd been teaching Marcus for 34 years that it was okay to treat me however he wanted because I'd always be there anyway, wallet open, heart ready to break. I made a decision right there at my kitchen table with my cold tea and my calculator and my memories of 3 decades of sacrifice. I pulled out my regular checkbook and wrote out a new check. Pay to the order of Marcus and Vanessa Lawson. Amount $250. Memo. Figure it out yourselves. $250. About what I would have spent on a regular wedding gift back when I was just Brenda from Englewood, back when I was embarrassing. I folded the $2.5 million check carefully and put it back in my safe. The new check, the $250 one, went into my purse. 3 days until the wedding. 3 days for Marcus to maybe call back and apologize, maybe realize he'd been cruel to the woman who'd sacrificed everything for him, maybe remember who his mother actually was. My phone never rang. Saturday morning arrived with perfect September weather. 78 degrees, clear blue skies, light breeze off Lake Michigan, perfect for an outdoor ceremony at Lakeshore Pavilion. Perfect for what was about to happen. I arrived at the venue at 2:45, 45 minutes before the ceremony. The parking lot was already filling up with cars that cost more than I used to make in 3 years. Tesla Model X's, BMW 7 Series sedans, a Porsche Cayenne, even a Maserati. I parked my Nissan Altima with its fading paint and dented passenger door between a Mercedes and a Range Rover, and tried not to think about how it looked. The venue was stunning. White marble columns, professionally landscaped gardens with perfectly trimmed hedges, a stone terrace overlooking the lake. Marcus and Vanessa had chosen well. Expensive as hell, but beautiful. I walked toward the entrance wearing my burgundy Nordstrom rack dress, my 4-year-old black heels that I'd polished that morning, and a $22 necklace I'd bought at Target. Clean, pressed, appropriate. Maybe not $1,000 boutique appropriate, but appropriate for a hotel manager from the South Side. The first person I saw was Vanessa's maid of honor, a young woman named Taylor, who had her own lifestyle Instagram with 12,000 followers. She was wearing a champagne-colored dress that probably cost more than my car payment, directing guests toward the sign-in table with practiced enthusiasm. "Oh, hi, Mrs. Lawson," she said with that bright smile young people use when they're being polite to adults they don't really know. "You look nice." Nice. The way you'd compliment a child's finger painting. Not beautiful, not elegant, just nice. "Thank you, Taylor. You look lovely. Is Marcus around?" "Oh, he's getting ready in the groom's suite upstairs. Family photos start in about 15 minutes by the lake." She glanced down at her phone, then back at me with a slightly strained smile. I nodded and walked inside. The main hall was decorated with white orchids and trailing greenery, with string lights creating an elegant glow. Beautiful. Probably $8,000 just for the flowers. That's when I heard my name. Brenda, there you are. It was my sister Diane, walking toward me in a navy suit and pearls. She was 3 years older than me, worked as a paralegal, and had always been protective of her little sister. She looked me up and down with an expression that was hard to read. You look fine, Bren. Don't let anybody tell you different. What do you mean? She lowered her voice and glanced around. Marcus has been anxious about the photos. Something about everyone looking cohesive for the photographer. He's been checking outfits all morning. Before I could respond, I heard the sharp click of expensive shoes on the marble floor behind me. Mom. I turned around. There was Marcus in his custom tuxedo that probably cost $3,000, his hair freshly cut, looking more stressed than happy. He looked handsome. He also looked like he was about to have a difficult conversation he didn't want to have. Mom, we need to talk. Privately. He took my arm, not roughly, but firmly, and led me toward a small room off the main entrance. Once we were inside with the door closed, he turned to face me. Okay, so I know we talked about the outfit situation, and I know you said you'd figure it out, but he gestured at my dress. This is what you figured out? It's a nice dress, Marcus. It's clean. It fits. It's appropriate for a wedding. Mom, no. His voice was tight. It's really not. The photographer we hired charges $4,000. Every single photo from today is going to be in our home for the rest of our lives. Vanessa's family all look incredible. Her father is wearing Tom Ford. Her brothers both went to that boutique and spent at least $900 each. Even her teenage nephew looks more put together than. He stopped himself. Then what, Marcus? He ran his hand over his face. Mom, I'm sorry, but you look like you're dressed for church on a random Sunday. This is my wedding. These photos are going to be everywhere. On our walls, on social media, in albums we'll show our kids someday. This is the same dress I wore to your college graduation. You said I looked beautiful then. That was 8 years ago, Mom. And this is different. This is my wedding day. Vanessa has been planning this for 18 months. Her TikTok followers have been watching every detail. We can't have you looking like... He paused. Like what? Like a black woman from the South Side who worked her whole life so you could have opportunities? Like someone who doesn't fit into your new North Shore life? His jaw tightened. That's not fair. Isn't it? You wanted me to spend $1,000 I told you I didn't have. When I asked for help, you called me embarrassing. Now you're upset that I look exactly like what I am. Your mother who raised you alone on a hotel manager's salary. Mom, please. His voice was getting louder. Through the door, I could hear the conversations in the main hall going quiet. People were listening. Can we just get through today without drama? Drama? I'm standing here in a clean dress, ready to watch my son get married. You're the one who pulled me into this room to criticize my appearance. He took a breath, clearly trying to control his frustration. Look, we're going to have to be strategic about the photo arrangements. Strategic. Like I was a problem to be managed. What does that mean? It means maybe you stand toward the back in the family photos. And for the reception, we've seated you at table 8 with Aunt Diane and some family friends. It's a great table. You'll be more comfortable there. Table 8, not the head table with immediate family. Table 8 with the people who didn't quite make the cut for prime positioning. Marcus, I'm your mother. Don't mothers usually sit at the head table? Usually, yes. But Vanessa's parents paid for most of this reception, so they're at the head table. And honestly, Mom, the head table is going to be photographed constantly. With your outfit, you might feel more relaxed, somewhere less visible. Less visible. My own son wanted me to be less visible at his wedding. That's when Vanessa appeared in the doorway, looking radiant in her getting ready robe, her makeup flawless, her hair in elegant curls. "Hey, Mrs. Lawson," she said, her voice sweet but her eyes assessing my dress in one quick sweep. "Marcus, babe, the photographer needs us in 5 minutes." She looked at Marcus with an expression I recognized. They'd already discussed this. They'd already planned how to handle the problem of his underdressed mother. "We were just talking about the photo arrangements," Marcus said. Vanessa nodded sympathetically. "Mrs. Lawson, I hope you understand. We've invested so much in making sure every detail of today is perfect. The photographer alone is $4,000. These images are going to define how people remember our wedding." "I understand perfectly," I said quietly. "You want me hidden." "That's not what we're saying," Marcus started, but Vanessa cut him off. "We're saying we want you comfortable. Table 8 is lovely. You'll have Diane there, and Marcus's godmother, and some wonderful people. You won't have to worry about being in front of cameras all evening. Won't have to worry, like visibility was a burden instead of a right." "Sure," I said, "whatever works for you both." Marcus looked relieved. "Thanks for understanding, Mom. You're the best." "No," I thought, watching them walk away together. "I'm really not. But you're about to learn exactly what the best looks like when she stops pretending." The ceremony was beautiful. Marcus looked handsome in his custom tuxedo. Vanessa was stunning in her $7,200 Vera Wang gown. They'd spared no expense on the string quartet, the floral arrangements, the custom aisle runner with their initials embroidered in gold thread. I walked down the aisle, as mother of the groom was seated in the 3rd row, not the 1st. Vanessa's parents sat in front, her grandparents beside them. I sat behind them with Diane, who squeezed my hand so hard I thought she might break my fingers. "This is wrong," she whispered. "You should be in the front row." "It's fine," I whispered back, though we both knew it wasn't. The photographer, a 30-something white man named Derek, who carried equipment worth more than my annual salary, moved around like he was shooting a magazine spread. He took at least 400 photos during the ceremony alone. I noticed he positioned himself so that Vanessa's family was prominently featured in every shot. Marcus's family, meaning me and Diane, were barely visible. After the ceremony ended with the kiss and the applause, we moved to cocktail hour on the terrace overlooking the lake. This is where things went from uncomfortable to unbearable. I was standing near the bar with a glass of white wine, trying to make conversation with one of Marcus's college friends, when I overheard something that made my blood pressure spike. Vanessa was talking to her bridesmaids near the appetizer station. Her voice carried more than she realized. Or maybe she just didn't care. "I just hope the photos turn out okay," she was saying. Some of the groom's family didn't quite understand the dress code. Her maid of honor, Taylor, glanced in my direction and lowered her voice. Not low enough. "Is that Marcus's mom? In the burgundy dress from like 2019? Vanessa sighed dramatically. "Yeah. We tried to help her find something more appropriate, but she was really resistant. Marcus offered to take her shopping, but she said she couldn't afford it and then got defensive when he tried to help. That was a complete lie. Marcus had called me embarrassing and told me to figure it out myself. But here was Vanessa, rewriting the story for her friends, making me the stubborn, difficult mother who refused assistance. That's so awkward," another bridesmaid said. "Having family who can't keep up with the aesthetic." "Tell me about it," Vanessa replied. "Marcus's mom is sweet, but she still lives in Englewood and drives this ancient Nissan. Different worlds, you know. Different worlds. Like I was some relic from a past Marcus was trying to erase." I finished my wine and walked away before I heard anything else. But the damage was complete. This wasn't just about a dress anymore. This was about class, about shame, about a son who'd moved to the North Shore and decided his South Side mother didn't fit the image he wanted to project. 20 minutes later, Diane found me by the lake, staring out at the water. "I heard what Vanessa said," she told me, her voice shaking with anger. "Bren, that girl is poison, and Marcus is letting her treat you like this." "He's letting her?" "He started it, Diane. He's the one who called me embarrassing. He's the one who told me to figure it out myself." "Then why are you still here? Why are you letting them treat you like this?" I turned to look at her. "Because I'm about to teach my son the most expensive lesson of his life." Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "You'll see. Just make sure you're recording when they call for toasts." Dinner was served at 6 o'clock. I sat at table 8 with Diane, Marcus's godmother, Miss Gloria, and 4 couples I barely knew who turned out to be Vanessa's parents' friends. Pleasant people, but clearly confused about why the mother of the groom wasn't at the head table. The head table was positioned on a raised platform with dramatic uplighting. I had a perfect view of Marcus and Vanessa laughing with the wedding party, Vanessa's parents telling stories, the constant flash of Derek's camera capturing every moment for their perfect wedding album. Miss Gloria leaned over during the salad course. "Brenda, honey, shouldn't you be sitting up there with Marcus?" "They needed the space for Vanessa's family," I said. "It's fine." But Diane wasn't having it. She'd been watching the dynamics all evening, and I could see her getting angrier by the minute. "This is ridiculous," she said loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear. "You're his mother. You raised him alone. You sacrificed everything. And they've got you hidden back here like some distant cousin. Diane, keep your voice down." "No, I will not keep my voice down." One of Vanessa's parents' friends, a woman named Catherine, was listening with obvious interest. Nothing travels faster at a wedding than family drama, and I could see her phone coming out, probably texting other guests about the tension at table 8. That's when I noticed the phones multiplying across the reception. First, it was Taylor taking selfies at the head table, making sure to capture the elegant setup behind her. Then Vanessa's college friends started recording Marcus feeding Vanessa cake. Then the bridesmaids posed for group shots, carefully angling to show the beautiful wedding party and distinguished guests. But every single photo deliberately excluded table 8. Every angle was chosen to showcase the elegant head table, the happy couple, Vanessa's family in their designer clothes. None of them showed the mother of the groom sitting in the back with the overflow guests. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. The wedding hashtag, Marcus and Vanessa Forever, was already trending with 63 posts from various guests. I scrolled through them slowly, taking in each one. Photo after photo of the gorgeous ceremony, the elegant reception, the stunning bride and handsome groom. The head table looked like something from a luxury wedding magazine. Vanessa's father in his Tom Ford suit. Her mother in what was clearly a $4,000 gown. The wedding party, in their perfectly coordinated outfits. One post from Vanessa's sorority sister caught my attention. "When your girl has the wedding of the century, every detail perfection. Wedding goals, Marcus and Vanessa forever." The photo showed the head table during a toast, Vanessa glowing in her reception dress, Marcus looking proud and polished, Vanessa's parents looking like they belonged in a country club directory. In the far background, barely visible past a tall centerpiece, was table 8. You could just see the edge of my burgundy dress, but my face was completely obscured. Another post from one of Marcus's Northwestern friends. "Some people just know how to throw a wedding. Pure class from start to finish. Marcus and Vanessa forever." Class. That word again. The word that separated people like them from people like me. I kept scrolling. Post after post documenting the beautiful wedding, the perfect family, the elegant celebration. In every single one, I was either completely absent or so far in the background I might as well have been invisible. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't just unfortunate photo angles. This was intentional erasure. They were creating a wedding story where Marcus's Southside mother didn't exist, where he came from the same world as Vanessa, where there was no reminder of Englewood or struggle, or a black woman who'd worked overnight shifts so her son could have opportunities. Around 7:15, during the main course, I excused myself to use the restroom. On my way back, I walked past a group of Vanessa's work colleagues standing near the bar. Their voices carried in that way drunk people's voices do when they think they're being quiet. Just so sad when family can't afford to dress properly for these kinds of events, one of them was saying. Like, it's his wedding. Couldn't she have at least tried? I know, right? Another one replied. Vanessa told me she literally offered to take her shopping and pay for everything, but the mom was too proud to accept help. Vanessa offered to pay for everything. That was the story now. Not that Marcus called me embarrassing and told me to figure it out myself. Not that I'd asked for help and been rejected. The narrative had been completely rewritten, and I was now the stubborn, proud mother who'd refused their generous assistance. I stopped walking and turned toward them. 4 women in their late 20s, all holding champagne, all wearing dresses that cost more than my monthly rent. "Excuse me, ladies," I said calmly. I couldn't help but overhear. "Are you talking about me?" They looked mortified. The one who'd been talking the most, a tall blonde in a sequin dress, turned bright red. "Oh, Mrs. Lawson, we didn't mean anything. You were talking about how I can't afford to dress properly, how Vanessa offered to help, but I was too proud." The silence stretched out uncomfortably. Finally, the blonde found her voice again. "We're so sorry. Vanessa just mentioned that she'd tried to help you find something nice to wear, but that you preferred to do your own thing." Do my own thing. Figure it out myself. The story was getting smoother with each retelling. "Ladies," I said, keeping my voice even and my smile in place, "you might want to hold off on posting any more photos tonight. I have a feeling this wedding is about to get very, very interesting." I walked back to table 8 with absolute clarity. Marcus and Vanessa hadn't just rejected my request for help, they'd built an entire false narrative around it. A story where they were the generous young couple trying to help Marcus's difficult, proud mother who just wouldn't accept their kindness. A story where I was the problem, the embarrassment, the family member who couldn't get with the program. And everyone believed it. Vanessa's friends, Marcus's colleagues, probably half the wedding guests. Poor Marcus, having to deal with his stubborn mother, who showed up to his elegant North Shore wedding looking like she'd just come from church in Englewood. I sat back down next to Diane, who was glaring at the head table like she wanted to flip it over. "You okay, Bren? You look like you're about to do something." "I am about to do something," I said quietly. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app one more time. $38,743,218.62. 34 years of motherhood. Let me calculate what that looked like in real numbers. College tuition, $38,000 over 4 years. First car, $9,200. Emergency funds, apartment deposits, dental work, engagement ring help. Rough total over the past decade, $83,000 given to a son who made decent money as a marketing consultant, but always seemed to need just a little more help. $83,000 from a woman making $46,000 a year, but when I asked for $600 to look appropriate at his wedding, I was embarrassing. I was told to figure it out myself. I reached into my purse and felt the 2 pieces of paper I'd brought with me. The first was the check for $250, my revised wedding gift. The second was something I'd printed that morning at work, a copy of my lottery ticket with the winning numbers highlighted in yellow. 4, 11, 19, 28, 33, 47, Powerball 22, the same numbers I'd played every Tuesday for 14 years. The same numbers that had been called on March 18th when the Powerball announcer read out the winning combination. I looked around the reception hall. 153 guests, all dressed in their finest. All here to celebrate Marcus and Vanessa's new beginning, all of them about to witness something they would talk about for years. The DJ was finishing dinner music and setting up his microphone for toasts. I could see Vanessa at the head table checking her phone, probably scrolling through all those Instagram posts about her perfect wedding, counting likes and comments. In about 5 minutes, the best man would give his speech, then the maid of honor, then Vanessa's father would say some words about welcoming Marcus to their family, and then it would be my turn, mother of the groom. The moment when everyone would politely look at the woman in the dated dress and applaud whatever sentimental words she had prepared. I pulled out my phone and took a screenshot of my bank account balance. $38,743,218.62. Then I opened my notes app and reviewed the key points I wanted to cover. This speech was going to be different from what Marcus expected, very different. But it was going to be honest. And after 34 years of giving everything and getting nothing but disrespect in return, honesty was exactly what this family needed. The DJ tapped his microphone 3 times. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. It's time for our wedding toasts. Here we go. The best man went first. Jason, Marcus's friend from Northwestern, told a story about how Marcus had called him after meeting Vanessa, saying he'd found the one. Sweet story. Predictable. Got the expected laughs and awes. 4 minutes of perfectly safe wedding material that offended nobody. Then came Taylor, the maid of honor. She talked about Vanessa's wedding vision board, how she'd been planning this day since college, how every detail reflected her personality and dreams. She held up her champagne glass and said, "To Marcus and Vanessa, may your marriage be as beautiful as this perfect day." Everyone applauded. Vanessa dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. Marcus looked proud. Vanessa's father stood next. Richard Chen, looking distinguished in his Tom Ford suit, welcomed Marcus to their family, talked about hard work and building a strong foundation, mentioned something about the importance of financial stability and shared values, safe topics, appropriate sentiments, more applause. Then the DJ looked toward table 8. And now, we'd like to invite the mother of the groom, Brenda Lawson, to say a few words. This was it. I stood slowly, smoothed down my $73 dress, and walked toward the microphone. 153 pairs of eyes followed me across the room. I could hear phones coming out, cameras starting to record. At the head table, Marcus was smiling, that tight smile that meant he was nervous about what I might say. Vanessa was recording on her phone, probably planning to post my speech to her TikTok for her 43,000 followers. Content is content, after all. I reached the microphone and looked out at all those faces, designer dresses, perfect makeup, jewelry that cost more than most people's cars. This was Marcus's world now. These were his people. The life he'd built for himself on the North Shore, far away from Englewood and his mother's 1-bedroom apartment. "Thank you," I said, and my voice came through the sound system clear and strong. "Thank you all for being here to celebrate Marcus and Vanessa." Polite applause. Marcus was still smiling, but I could see tension in his shoulders. He was worried. Good. Being a mother is an interesting journey. You spend your whole life trying to give your children everything they need. You work double shifts so they can have new shoes for school. You skip meals so they can eat at restaurants with their friends. You drive a car with 147,000 miles on it so you can help them buy a reliable one when they need it. Nods around the room. Other parents relating. This was familiar territory. Safe. You do all of this because you love them. Because you want them to have opportunities you never had. Because you want them to succeed and be happy. Marcus was nodding along. Vanessa too. This was the kind of sentimental mother of the groom speech they'd expected. But sometimes, I continued, my voice getting quieter, sometimes you realize that all that giving has taught them the wrong lesson. Sometimes you realize they've learned to expect it, to take it for granted, to treat your sacrifices like they were owed instead of earned. The nodding stopped. People were starting to glance at each other, uncertain about where this was going. 3 days ago, my son called me. He wanted me to buy a $1,000 outfit for today. When I said I could probably manage $600, he told me that wasn't good enough. When I asked if he could help me with the difference, just this once, for his wedding, he told me something I'll never forget. The room was getting very quiet now. I could see Marcus's face changing, color draining. He told me I was embarrassing. He told me I needed to figure it out myself. He said helping me would be enabling poor choices. You could hear people shifting in their seats. The energy in the room had completely changed. Now, I want to be clear about something. Marcus was absolutely right. A 58-year-old woman should be able to afford her own clothes. A mother shouldn't have to ask her son for help buying a dress. Marcus looked confused. Was I agreeing with him? Was this going to be okay after all? The thing is, I said, reaching into my purse and pulling out the lottery ticket, I can afford my own clothes. I can afford a lot of things. I held the ticket up high so the front tables could see it clearly. 3 months ago, I won the Powerball lottery. Not just any lottery. The biggest jackpot in Illinois history. The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the marble floor. $64.2 million. I let that number hang in the air, let it sink in, let people process what they'd just heard. Marcus's mouth was literally hanging open. Vanessa had stopped recording. I took the lump sum payment. After federal and state taxes, that left me with $38.7 million. The gasps started then, spreading through the room like wildfire as people whispered to their neighbors, pulled out their phones to check if this could possibly be real. I pulled out my phone and held up the screenshot of my banking app, turning slowly so more people could see the numbers. $38,743,218.62, to be exact. The gasps turned to shocked murmurs, then to outright conversations as the reality sank in. People were standing up to see my phone better. Someone at table 3 shouted, "Is that real?" Diane was grinning like she'd just won the lottery herself. Now, you might be wondering why I didn't tell anyone about this, I continued, looking directly at Marcus. His face had gone from white to gray. Why I kept working at the hotel, kept living in my apartment in Englewood, kept driving my old Nissan with its dented door and fading paint. The room was so quiet I could hear the air conditioning system humming. I kept it secret because I wanted to see something. I wanted to see how my family would treat me when they thought I was still just broke Brenda from the South Side. Just the hotel manager who couldn't quite make ends meet. I paused, let that sink in. And you know what I learned? Marcus was shaking his head slightly, like he could somehow rewind the last 3 minutes and make this not be happening. I learned that when I asked my son for help, just once, just $600 to look decent at his wedding, I was told I was embarrassing. I was told to figure it out myself. I was told that helping me would be enabling my poor financial choices. Vanessa had her hand over her mouth. Several of her bridesmaids were recording now, but not for cute wedding content. This was about to go viral for very different reasons. So, I figured it out myself. I wore this $73 dress from Nordstrom Rack, the same dress my son called dated, the same dress that apparently wasn't good enough for his wedding photos. I looked around the room, making eye contact with as many people as I could. And you know what? It's a perfectly good dress. It's clean, it's appropriate. There's nothing wrong with it except that it doesn't cost $1,000 and it came from a store that people like Vanessa, I gestured toward the head table, call embarrassing on their TikTok videos. Someone gasped. Vanessa was crying now, but not happy tears. These were tears of humiliation. I came here tonight with a wedding gift prepared. I had a check made out for $2.5 million. Marcus made a sound like he'd been punched in the stomach. Vanessa's crying got louder. $2.5 million to start your new life together, to buy a house, to pay off your student loans, to never have to worry about money the way I worried about it for 34 years while I raised my son alone. I pulled out the $250 check from my purse and held it up. But here's the thing about respect. You can't buy it with money. You can't demand it because you're family. You have to earn it through how you treat people, especially the people who love you most. I paused, looked directly at Marcus, and over the past few months, I've learned that my son doesn't respect me. He respects what he thought I could give him. He respects the grandmother who left him money in her will. He respects Vanessa's parents who paid for this wedding. But his own mother? The woman who worked overnight shifts so he could go to private high school? The woman who sold her mother's jewelry to help pay his college tuition? That woman is just an embarrassment to be hidden at table 8. Diane started clapping. Slowly at first, then louder. Miss Gloria joined her. Then a few other people scattered around the room. Not everyone, but enough. So Marcus and Vanessa, here's your actual wedding gift. I walked to the head table and placed the check in front of Marcus. $250. Written out in my careful handwriting. $250. About the same amount of respect and consideration you gave me when I asked for help. Marcus stood up from his chair. Mom, please don't do this. Don't do what, baby? Tell the truth? Let all these people know who you really are? Let them know that you were so ashamed of your South Side mother that you seated her in the back and told people I refused help when really you called me embarrassing and hung up on me? The room was in chaos now. People were talking over each other. Phones were definitely recording. This was going to be all over social media within the hour. I want everyone here to understand something, I said, turning back to address the whole room. This isn't about the money. This has never been about the money. This is about how we treat the people who sacrifice for us. This is about recognizing that kindness and respect aren't things you can take for granted just because someone is family. Vanessa stood up, mascara running down her face. Mrs. Lawson, please, we can talk about this privately. Oh, now you want to talk privately? After you told your bridesmaids I was too proud to accept help? After you made sure every photo excluded me? After you created a whole social media narrative about Marcus's difficult mother who wouldn't let you take her shopping? How did you? She started, then stopped. How did I know? Because I heard you, Vanessa. I heard you at the cocktail hour telling your friends how sad it was that I couldn't dress properly. I heard your work colleagues repeating the story you told them about offering to pay for everything. She sank back into her chair, covering her face with her hands. I looked at Marcus one more time. My son, my baby boy, the child I'd given up everything for. Marcus, you wanted me to look appropriate for your wedding. You wanted me to fit into this world you've built with Vanessa. You wanted photos you could put on your walls without being ashamed. I gestured at my dress, at myself. Well, here I am. This is who I am. I'm Brenda Lawson from Englewood. I'm a hotel manager who worked her way up from housekeeping. I'm a black woman who raised a son alone and made sure he had every opportunity. I'm someone who buys her dresses on clearance and drives an old car and lives in a one-bedroom apartment. I paused. I'm also someone with $38 million in the bank who just decided her son doesn't deserve a penny of it. The room erupted again. Marcus was saying something, but I couldn't hear it over the noise. "Maybe this will teach you something important," I said, picking up the microphone one last time. "Maybe you'll learn that money doesn't make someone worthy of respect. Sacrifice does. Love does. Showing up does. And maybe you'll learn that before you judge someone for not meeting your standards, you should remember who paid for you to have standards in the first place." I set the microphone down on the head table next to that $250 check and walked toward the exit. Behind me, the reception had dissolved into complete chaos. People were standing, talking over each other, recording everything. Diane was right behind me, laughing and crying at the same time. Miss Gloria was following us both, shaking her head and muttering, "That's right, Brenda. That's exactly right." I made it to my Nissan before Marcus caught up with me. He was running, his expensive shoes slipping on the parking lot gravel. Mom, please wait." I stopped with my hand on the car door. Behind Marcus, I could see people streaming out of the reception hall, phones up, recording every moment of this confrontation. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean I never wanted, please." "You didn't mean what, Marcus? You didn't mean to call me embarrassing? You didn't mean to tell me to figure it out myself? You didn't mean to seat me at table 8 like I was some distant relative instead of the mother who raised you?" He was crying now, real tears, not the kind you can fake. "I'm sorry. I was stressed about the wedding and the money and trying to impress Vanessa's family. I wasn't thinking." "That's the problem, baby. You weren't thinking about me at all. You haven't been thinking about me for years. Ever since you moved to the North Shore and started making decent money, you've been trying to forget where you came from. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you came to visit me in Englewood? When's the last time you invited me to your condo? When's the last time you introduced me to your work friends as your mother instead of avoiding the topic entirely?" He didn't have an answer for that. I opened my car door. The crowd from the reception was getting closer, phones still recording. This moment would be on TikTok within minutes, on Facebook by tonight, probably picked up by local news by tomorrow morning. Marcus grabbed my hand. "Please, Mom, don't leave like this. We can fix this. I can fix this. Some things can't be fixed, baby. Some lessons have to be learned the hard way." I got in my car. Through the windshield, I could see Vanessa standing at the entrance of the reception hall, surrounded by her bridesmaids, all of them on their phones. Her perfect wedding had just become the wedding everyone would talk about, but not for the reasons she'd wanted. Diane tapped on my window. I rolled it down. "That was magnificent, Bren. 34 years of watching him take advantage of you, and you finally stood up. I should have done it sooner. You did it when it mattered most, in front of everyone who needed to see who he really was." I started the engine. Marcus was still standing there in his $3,000 tuxedo, crying on the gravel parking lot while wedding guests recorded him. Part of me felt sorry for him. The other part, the part that had been called embarrassing, knew this was necessary. I drove home through the quiet Chicago streets, past the North Shore suburbs where Marcus lived, past the downtown hotels where I'd worked for 27 years, back to Englewood and my one-bedroom apartment. My phone started buzzing before I even got home. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails, word travels fast in families, but social media makes it travel at the speed of light. Someone had definitely recorded my speech and posted it. Multiple someones, probably. I pulled into my parking spot next to Mrs. Johnson's old Cadillac and sat there for a minute, looking at my building. Same building I'd lived in for 18 years. Same apartment that Marcus called embarrassing when he told Vanessa about it. Same home where I'd raised him and loved him and sacrificed everything. Tomorrow, I'd start figuring out what to do with $38 million. Maybe I'd quit my job at the hotel. Maybe I'd buy a nicer place, though I'd always loved this neighborhood and the people in it. Maybe I'd travel, see some of the world I'd never had time or money to explore. Maybe I'd start a foundation to help single mothers who were working 2 jobs and raising kids alone, the way I had. But tonight, I was just going to go upstairs, make myself some tea, and sit in the silence of my little apartment. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I could breathe, like I'd put down a weight I'd been carrying so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. My phone buzzed again. A text from Diane. Check TikTok. Your speech is already viral. 300,000 views and climbing. I opened the app. There it was. Multiple videos from different angles, all showing the same moment. Brenda Lawson, hotel manager from Englewood, revealing her lottery win and exposing her son's treatment of her at his own wedding. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. She raised him alone and he treated her like that? He deserved it. $38 million, and she still showed up in a $73 dress because she has class. This is what happens when you forget where you came from. The mama said figure it out yourself and meant it. Another text came through, this one from Marcus. Mom, I love you. I'm so sorry. Please call me. We need to talk. Maybe we would talk. Eventually. But not tonight. Tonight, the check would stay at $250, and Marcus would learn the most important lesson of his life. That respect isn't bought with money or status or North Shore addresses. It's earned through how you treat people, especially the people who loved you when you had nothing. I walked upstairs to my apartment, made my tea, and sat by the window looking out at the Chicago skyline in the distance. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably still at his reception, trying to salvage what was left of his wedding night. Somewhere out there, Vanessa was probably deleting comments on her social media and figuring out how to spin this story. But here in Englewood, in my 1-bedroom apartment with my $73 dress and my $38 million, I finally understood what freedom felt like. Marcus had called me embarrassing, but in the end, he was the one who learned what that word really meant, and I was the one who learned that self-respect is worth more than any amount of money, even $64.2 million. That's Brenda's story. A 58-year-old black woman from the South Side who won $64 million and used it to teach her son the most expensive lesson of his life. Not with money, with truth. Where are you listening from? What city? What state? What country? Drop it in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Hit that like button if this story gave you chills. Share it if you've ever felt underestimated or disrespected by family members who forgot where they came from. And subscribe because I've got more stories about justice, family betrayal, and people who finally stood up for themselves. Here's what I really want to know. Have you ever had someone in your family treat you differently once they moved up in the world? Someone who forgot the sacrifices you made for them? Share your story in the comments. This is a safe space, and I read every single one. By the way, Brenda's speech went viral on TikTok with over 300,000 views in the first hour. That wedding became the most talked about event in Chicago. Sometimes the truth is the best revenge. Thanks for listening. Remember, respect isn't about how much money you have. It's about how you treat the people who loved you before you had anything at all. See you in the next story.